Welcome again back to Naked Insider. Today we've got Peter Netra again.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Today's video is we're going to reveal the number one secret to great communication in isolation. That's the key.
That's the key.
But before we do that, we're going to find out what is communication all about.
Communication is the ability to transmit in and receive information that allows people to coordinate, to get on the same page, to innovate, and to move forward, essentially.
Great, yeah. So what are the different types of communications? Because we tend to think communication is just talk.
Correct. And there is a huge focus nowadays on the talking side of things, but communication is extremely subtle. When two human beings get together, there's more communication goes on. Actually, there's the statistics are saying that 60% of your communication is non-verbal, which is pretty huge.
Yeah.
So while you can say what you mean, what is amplified and what is expanded on is things like hand gestures, the way that your eyebrows move, the inflection, the tone, those sorts of things. And a lot of times that is now missed out, say for instance when you're on the phone. So it's very interesting.
Yeah. So what is the purpose of communication?
The purpose of communication is to move a concept or an idea forward and to share ideas, to be able to say, hey, I've got an idea, or hey, we've got a situation here, how do we go about it? So there's a lot of collaboration inside of a communication.
Excellent. So now coming to the crux of it. So what are the challenges that we are facing as communicators?
Most people find that when they're actually talking with an organizer or talking with their counterpart, most people are too busy formulating in their heads what they're about to say rather than to actually absorb the information that's coming towards them. Now that can be mitigated when you're actually talking with somebody. Mm-hmm. You have eye contact.
Yes.
You have peripheral vision going on. So all of these things tend to funnel you into the receiving side of things. But most people actually are in their heads trying to figure out what they're going to say in response to a point that was 5 seconds ago.
Correct. I mean, we talked about the water cooler effect of
That's
communications. Right. That sometimes you can get your best ideas just by meeting face to face. But given that with what's happening and we are stuck at home,
yes, the spontaneity.
That spontaneity has disappeared.
Yes.
And it's not just person to person. It could be also with an organization. I mean, team meetings that are conducted by Zooms, but there's that, when someone is talking, you sometimes want to measure the face expressions or see what other people are thinking. Yes. And you can't do that.
No, you can't. And the difference between your Zoom and your water cooler is that there's a whole different internal setup. So you're a lot more formal inside of your Zoom meeting. It'd be like sitting, okay, we're going to get the team together and we're all going to talk formally about such and such. Whereas at the water cooler, or you bump into somebody in the hallway, you're a lot more relaxed, you're a lot more open. What that allows to do is that your imagination, that your creativity, that your problem-solving abilities actually become heightened the more relaxed you are. The more formal a situation, the more you become boxed into the parameters that meeting is all about. Correct.
Now, so I want to touch a subject about disengagement. Well, communication is a key part of disengagement.
Yes.
Disengagement can be referred to, and it's just a view that we've taken on, which is really about how the person or the employee feels that they're connected, either being supported by the management or executive, connected with their peers, or maybe even their job being meaningful.
Yes.
So how does disengagement, and by the way, we're talking about really bad numbers of around 87% in the Western world have that level of disengagement. So the question is, how does lack of communication now, given that we're working remotely, impairs that even more?
There's a lot of things at play. So, for instance, let's say you're on a large chat or a large meeting, you have a sea of faces in front of you. What that picture is already saying to you is you're one of, count the number of pictures in front of you. So, but not only that, all of a sudden you're now in a completely different environment that is no longer your work environment. It could be in a cafe, it could be in your living room, it could be from goodness knows where. The reality is that you're now not so much in the business side of things, you're now actually in a completely different environment. The experience of the garbage truck driving past and all of a sudden it hits you, oh my gosh, I didn't take the garbage out this morning, and that's total distraction. For that period of time, you're not there.
Correct. Or having kids scream, or all the typical distractions that you'd find in home place are now part of that environment that you now work with.
That's exactly right.
So the separation between work and home becomes really muddled.
Extremely blurred, to the detriment of both.
Correct.
Because you'll find that your work concepts or your work personality or persona will bleed into home, but vice versa, what your home personality will bleed into work. And the part of the discipline is to keep that separated.
So, moving it, what are the risks then to organisations by and large in that sort of challenge of communication in isolation?
So one of the most important parts of communication, especially pre-communication, before you're about to go into a meeting, is you sit down or you bump into a colleague and say, hey, going to think about raising this at the meeting. What do you think? What's your concept? Okay, right. And then you have this backwards and forwards, you have this information flow. You have a buy-in perhaps of critical people before you actually get to the meeting. A lot of that drops away by only being able to be meeting remotely. And look, you also miss out on great ideas. I think that the biggest loss to an organisation is an idea you've never had. And when you are just in an informal situation, the creative ideas come out quite naturally, especially problem solving.
And could you see that sort of isolation also impacting on their own behaviour? So they may feel that they're not being heard. So when they're not heard, that could escalate to either from a situation where they want to do something.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and again, it gets back to the realization that you are part of a larger group, but essentially all you're seeing is that you're a team of one. So where's your support? Where is your? Because that's it. You're sitting there in front of a monitor probably, or your phone, and that's it. You're a team of one, and these people are so remote from you. Where is your team? You become a team of one. So that is a support level situation that allows people to go off script. It allows people to invent things, new ways of doing things that are not necessarily always approved or might not be approved.
Correct.
But where is their check and balance there?
Well, there's pretty little, if I want to add. And the risk, the risk to an organisation has definitely increased.
Yes.
We hear it from statistics in talking about the depression that people get as a result. The domestic violence has increased.
Yes.
So there's a huge impact to the person, by and large, and the fact that they need to communicate, still do the business work that they have to produce on a day-to-day basis, is now so much more harder.
Absolutely. They're built into a normal business day where you go to work. You have circuit breakers built in. You get dressed. You get yourself into a business attire, whether that's jeans or whatever it is. But then you go onto some sort of a transport system, whether it's your car, whether it's the bus, whether it's a tram. Then you have time to get there. So there is like definite stages, definite demarcations and areas of time where you're setting yourself up to go to work.
Correct.
None of that happens when you're already at home and suddenly you're at work.
Yeah. Now, something we haven't even actually talked about, and I think we are lucky in Australia,
Yeah.
but there will be certain places where it's very much public facing, like hospitals,
Yep.
airports, and other public areas, where a lot of people wear masks. How does that affect communication? Even so, now you're facing face to face, but
Yes.
you can't see the facial expressions pretty much.
Correct. So you have different accents, you have different tones of speech. For instance, even if you're not actually wearing a mask, you've seen those plexiglass screens.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. There are many times when I've walked up to a service counter and I cannot understand the person on the other side of the screen. So eventually we actually have to go around the side of the screen to communicate. Masks are no different. So if you have somebody who has an unusual speech pattern, most of the time if a person is not wearing a mask, you can quasi lip read and kind of get an idea of where they're going with what they're saying. So yeah, there's huge impediments there as well too.
Okay, so wrapping it up, what is the number one secret, recommendation, reveal that you would mention to the audience?
So this gets into something that I'd like to talk about in another video, which is about how to create a space, how to anchor a space that is now your business space. So find an area which has a neutral background, and I'm saying that because if you've seen those podcasts of people that are sitting with their favourite football team at the back, and that's very distracting for people who vote for the opposing football team.
Yes.
So create a neutral background so that you are respectful of the environment for the people that are watching you, but also you can focus in on by wearing earphones or earbuds so that your hearing is exclusive for what's going on, and set aside an area that is business. So
Correct.
if you're going to do business, do it in an area that you've now defined and quarantined. This is where I'm going to be doing business. Not where you eat your breakfast, not where you sit down and you do your work. That more than anything else is going to increase your attention. It signals to you, to the being that you are now at work. You're in work mode. Make sure that you're dressed appropriately, that you're not slouching around in your pajamas, and that will actually heighten your experience of being able to work remotely from home.
Cool. That's great advice. So with that, we come to an end. Thanks again, Peter.
Thank you.
It's great. And next video is going to be about anchoring. So stay and check it out.
Fantastic.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Boaz.
Cheers.